In this video, we're going to use simple polygons to create the walls, floor, table, and chair in this room. We'll start by creating the floor. Holding down the space bar, I'll go to Create, Polygon Primitives, and I'm going to go to the plane surface. Now, at the bottom of the polygon submenu, I've chosen Interactive Creation. But if I wanted to make a specific size, I could start by going to the attributes at the end of that tab where the little white square is. And in the attributes, I'm going to make the width and the height 30. I'm leaving the divisions for width and height at 1. Hitting return on the keyboard, I'll click in my viewport and there's my surface. Now I want to scale it a bit so it fits within the grid. I'll hit R for scale. Grabbing the yellow box in the center, I'll pull it to the left. Now I'm going to start by creating one of the walls. Holding in the space bar, I'll go to Create again, Polygon Primitives, Cube, and I'll click and drag a footprint shape for the length and width. Bearing in mind I can always go in and re-edit this. And there I have a wall. I'd like it to be a little thinner, so I'll hit R on the keyboard and I'll just taper it a bit. If I wanted to be more precise about lining up with the floor, I could use my orthographic views. In my top view, I've zoomed in, hitting F on the keyboard, and now I'll just move it into position. Now I want another wall adjacent to this one. To duplicate elements in Maya, you hit Command D. I'll need to rotate it so it's perpendicular to the wall I've created. In the channel box on the right hand side, I'll go to Rotate Y and I'll put in 90. Now I'll return to my top view. In my top view, I'll drag that into position. Now we're going to create an opening for the door on the wall on the right and an opening for the window on the wall on the left. Selecting the wall on the right, I'll go to my orthographic views. When I hit Shift F, I can zoom in on the geometry in all the windows. In the side view, I'm going to introduce another polygon cube. We'll be using Boolean modeler to subtract one piece of geometry from the other. Now, rather than create a new polygon cube, which is an option, I can simply hit Command D. And if I get my scale tool by hitting R, I can now scale it to the shape of the door I want. I'll hit W and I'll place it where I'd like the door opening to be. Returning to my perspective view, I can now see the door shape embedded in the wall. Now I want a door as well, so I will duplicate this one more time and I'll just put it off to the side. With the original, I'm going to move it back into the wall and I'll hit R on the keyboard, and on my Z-axis I'm going to make it thicker so that it penetrates through the wall on either side. In order to subtract the door shape from the wall, I'm going to select the wall, Shift Select the door, and at the top of the user interface I'm going to go to Mesh, Booleans, A-B. And what I'll see now is the opening of the door. There's also a brown outline, which allows me, if I want to at some point, to use my tools to move the location and change the scale of it. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to delete the history by selecting the wall once again. And then I'm going to go to the user interface in the corner, Edit, Delete by Type, History. Always be sure to select the object and not the mesh. Now I'll perform the same function for the wall that will have the window. Selecting a surface, I'll go to my orthographic views, hitting Shift F on the keyboard, I'll go to the front view. And then rather than make a new polygon cube, the shape of the window, I'll simply hit Command D, R on the keyboard to get my scale tool. And I'll scale that to the shape of the window I might want. And then I'll put it in the position. Returning to my perspective view and hitting F on the keyboard, I can now see that new geometry embedded in the wall of a room. I'll want to use a polygon cube like this to make the window frame. So I'll duplicate it again and pull it off to the back in reserve, the way we did with the door. Selecting the one that's embedded in the wall, I'll hit R on the keyboard and I'll scale it to make it thicker than the wall itself. Once again, we're going to use the Boolean modeler. We always select the surface first that we want to keep, and then we shift select the geometry that will subtract and make the whole for us. Going to Mesh in the upper left-hand corner of interface, choosing Booleans, difference A minus B. And it will also have the editable brown mesh line. I don't need that. I'll select the wall once again. Then I'll go to Edit, Delete by Type, History.